do business, so to speak. All right, I've got all my attachments open. So I will call this here ad hoc budget advisory committee. I will call this ad hoc budget advisory committee meeting to order. It's Wednesday, August the 23rd, and it's a little after 3 o'clock. I got 3:06. Asked if y'all would join me just for a moment of silence. Let us reflect on those in Hawaii who have really suffered from a terrible fire and damage out there. Amen. Thank you. Still amazes me that they have so many hundreds of folks that are still missing that they haven't been able to identify, which is so scary. All right, so first up is our 2024 budget process update, and our July monthly reports first, and then we'll talk about the budget process, our capital improvement plan. And Amy, you want to take us away with July monthly reports?
Sure. Good afternoon, everyone. Okay, so we have general fund expenditures. As you can see, everybody is under target except for my department again because of the ERP system. So we're going to continually see this until the end of the year. There's nothing I can do until we do a budget amendment, because we had the funding for it. We just didn't budget the expense because at that time we didn't know what the cost would be for the ERP system. So the revenues are there. There's nothing to worry about. It just will look bad for a little while.
Ooh, budget finance.
I know, right?
All
and
right.
So basically that's what I'm saying. Other departments were slightly over operationally for the same reasons we've talked about before. Recreation is just because of increased participation in programs, and revenues will cover the additional costs. And then police has utilized way above their overtime budget at this point. We've talked to them. We understand some of it, but they're supposed to be looking at it and analyzing it a little bit more to see what is going on with that.
Okay.
And then for that's just the graph for everybody.
Even with the overtime situation with the police department and the recreation department, they're still
overall they're under target. Yes.
Their overall budget. Gotcha. Okay.
And then for revenues, everything looks great so far. They're all tracking over target with the exception of rents and concessions. And this is kind of a timing issue to when we're receiving payments versus how we set the target. So we're just getting them a little bit later, some of them a little bit later than what we targeted. So not a concern there. It's just right now we're under budget. And then permit fees, I know at the beginning of the year, we were a little worried about permit fees because they were coming in under budget, but it looks like they're leveling out now, and hopefully we'll stay on track for the rest of the year.
Any surprises here?
The biggest surprise is interest income, I think.
What's that?
Interest income was the biggest surprise.
Yeah.
We're well over. That's the time we set the budget. We weren't really sure what interest rates were doing. And so obviously.
Gotcha.
Under. It's a good thing, not a bad thing to be that far over, right? And then enterprise funds, everybody's looking good. The city market is a little bit under target in profit, but we're noticing it's mostly because of higher than budgeted expenses for contract employees and professional services. So we'll talk to them about that, but I think everybody knows how busy Charleston has been, so they might have had to have just gotten some additional help because things have been pretty busy. Any questions on any of those?
So if you take the 5.6 from enterprise funds and then your overage for revenue year to date and your underage for expenses, what would the total of those three things be? I don't have them all in my head.
So hold on.
$7.3 and 5.3.
About 18.2.
18.2.
Mm-hmm.
So, and this is for the 6 months, correct?
Yeah, well, 7 through July.
Oh, it's through July, 7 months. So through 7 months, we're in essence $18 million to the good over what we budgeted.
Over target, yes.
Right.
So some of the targets could be higher in the rest of the months, depending on when most of the operational expenses happen. So.
Right. Gotcha. All right.
And then for stormwater, we've been talking about the revenues being a little bit under target because we delayed the dollar increase, but that's starting to level out as well.
Okay.
And then expenditures, they're well under target for expenditures.
Right. And would Matt Fountain say that that's just a timing thing, or
It's timing and personnel, Mayor.
Yeah. Gotcha.
Okay. And then tourism funds are all looking really good. We're about 51 point, almost 52% of our 2023 budget so far. Hospitality performing the best right now. Any questions there?
I have a quick question on those. I take it we're going to discuss what's going to happen going forward with accommodations, and I take it that will sort of balance this out a little bit more and not have hospitality picking up the lion's share. Is that the objective?
You mean over in which part of ATAX?
Well, if we
Like the 65% that the hospitality would take over that, or which part do you mean?
well, I'm not sure. Maybe I didn't ask a very good question. Let me think about it.
So let me ask it this way, Amy, the 15% that we're going to be allowed to spend on affordable housing, does that apply to all three of those buckets or just one or two of them?
That's going to be the 65% bucket. Well, it'll be 15% of the overall, but you still have to do the CVB portion of it and the general fund portion of it. So then that just leaves the remaining that you would take the 15% from, but the 15% is calculated on the total.
On the total, including the hospitality fee?
No, it's just ATAX.
Just the A tax. So it's the municipal A and the state A tax. It would apply to both of those?
No, just state ATAX only. So
The state-
Councilmember Soupings, it's, 15% of 12 million is only $1.8 million.
Right. Got it.
So it would affect the grants, most likely, that we issue.
But I think his where he might have been going was to think that the increase that you've seen here over what was approved would kind of cover that 15%, if you will.
Yes, But you would have to use the hospitality for other things that we covered that aren't grant related, because you can't do grant related, the hospitality can't be supplement the grant side of a tax, if that makes sense.
Right. Okie dokie. Any other questions?
Does that answer your question, Councilmember Seekings?
Yeah, it does. And I was mixing matching questions. I got it. Thank you. This is
Okay.
helpful. But it just shows me that people are coming here, they're staying in hotels and they're eating out. I mean,
Yep.
in large numbers. And that's in the end, with the reconfiguration of the way we spend those monies, it can only be to the good for some of our other objectives, including but unlimited to affordable housing. So it's all good news.
Okay.
Okay, and then just real quick of where we are with the budget. We've received most of the department's budgets and we're analyzing their requests. We have several meetings planned in September on the 13th, 20th, and 27th, where the departments will come and present their budgets and what their priorities are to all of you. We also had a meeting on the 6th of September, but I don't think we'll need that meeting, so we'll cancel that one. And then the departments, it's usually the larger departments, or if a department is asking for something more than what they normally do, or changing some of their processes, we just do the larger departments. So those are the ones that we plan to have present their budgets to you all, which is typically what we've done for the past few years. Do you have any questions on that, or if you'd like to see more departments, just let me know.
I think we're good.
Okay. And then we can go into the capital improvement plan, which will be the biggest part of this meeting. I'm going to share a different.
The spreadsheet went out to everyone, right?
It did.
Okay. And if you would, Amy, remind everybody what the kind of threshold is that qualifies a project getting on this list.
350,000 is typically our threshold to put a project on the capital improvement plan. Not meaning we don't do smaller projects, they just don't make the capital improvement plan document. But we have a lot of other projects out there that are less than that we're working on. Can you see this okay?
Well, I've got it pulled up separately. I can see it better on my screen. That's better.
Make it bigger.
Yeah. Oh, that's better.
Okay.
Yeah. Oh, that's too much. You can't see the whole screen.
Yeah. I know.
One back down.
There we go.
There
Okay.
you go. Perfect.
So let me go to the beginning page. Okay, so we'll start with general government. Obviously, we have the municipal operations complex at $112 million. We're working on a financing package for that 103 million that we're looking for still. So that will be forthcoming soon. Any questions on that one?
Well, can I ask a quick question on that?
Sure.
Not to, get ahead of the punchline when you come back to us, but when you say you're looking at a financing package, what bundles of money does that entail, or is that still to be determined?
So it'll be the Charleston neck TIF, and it'll be GO and possibly a combination of GO and IPRB. That's what we're kind of looking at. Most likely more on the GO side than the IPRB side.
Okay, thank you.
And we're working on an amendment with the Magnolia Group to the agreement so that we can nail down the exact dollar amount that we have in the TIF to utilize.
And that money is going to be spread across 4 budget cycles, is that right?
Yes.
Okay.
Well, 2.
3 maybe.
It has to be
Yeah.
done.
2025?
Yeah, so it was some are prior year, and then we have some 23, 24, and 25.
Okay.
Biggest bulk will be next year in 2025.
And that port's contribution is the property?
Yeah, yes. The other side of that goes to mobility projects, if you remember.
I do.
Mm. And then we have we don't really have a whole lot of new projects, but we did highlight in blue as we go through. You'll see the new projects that we added. The Central Fire Station 2 and 3, that's still, we have a grant, a potential FEMA hazard mitigation grant that we're waiting to hear back on that one. So that's why that's in red in terms of funding. So we'll see if we get that grant. But other than that, not a whole lot of changes. We had to add a little bit of money to Station 23 just because costs are rising. So some of these have gone up from last year just because everything's going up. Any questions on any of those? Okay. So that's just general government and public safety. Then we'll go to public service, which is mostly all of our drainage projects. And then the bridge. Anyway, so any questions on any of those? We haven't really added any new projects to that, to any public service projects. You know, we added the funding for the Beresford Creek Bridge. We've gotten several grants that will help with a lot of these projects, like the Barbary Woods grant. And some of these you see that still need funding sources. You know about the Cooper Jackson, we're waiting on grants for that we plan to apply for. And same with the Lake Dotterer and Long Ridge Creek drainage improvements. Any questions on that?
So I see, Amy, you got Limehouse Brick Arch Drainage Project, and then you got 383,000 for next year. Of course, the archway tunnels include more than Limehouse. We've applied for 5 million from the federal government to go towards that. I don't know that we've got any other funding sources that we're looking at for archway, but we need to find something so that a number continues to populate that year to year, because we got, 4 miles to go. Just making an observation. Mike, you have a Councilmember Seekins, you have a
Yeah. Yeah, thank you, Mr. Mayor. And Amy, and maybe this is a question for Matt, who I think I saw on the Hollywood Squares here. Is it anticipated during this budget process, before we get back to council and get to December, that there's room for addition of some projects on here? Recognizing, as I do, that there's a huge number to take care of these projects, but there may be some others that we need to sort of put in the pipeline and get on that list through this process. And I just didn't know if Matt anticipated that being a request coming from him, or something we can talk about when he comes in front of this committee.
And I'm certainly happy to respond, or I think Ms. Ward and I have talked about this a little bit,
And I think, Matt, you know what I'm talking about specifically, but anyway.
there is likely to be, with some of the grants we've been awarded, there is likely to be some unencumbered funding associated with the drainage fund that could be allocated into future projects. I think, tentatively plan to do that at a future budget ad hoc committee discussion with more detail on the drainage fund and potentially the stormwater operations account. But yes, there are financial resources potentially available. We'll have to figure out staffing, because we've added money, but not necessarily bodies or people. But that's something we can certainly discuss, Councilman Zegans.
Thank you.
And we wouldn't typically put the project on here until it was at a time that was actually would be getting started. We have a fairly good estimate of the cost too. So some of it's that as well.
I get that. And I mean,
Yeah.
the one I'm specifically thinking about is sort of medium to small and pretty, I think, almost ready. But anyway, we'll talk about it when we go with Matt and get all this in front of us.
Anything else on the public service projects?
Anybody?
So we'll just move down to, oops, I went too far, sorry. Urban and community development, which is down here. We still have the Hughie Street streetscape and Market Street streetscape on here. And then we added a TNT project for the Pureview pedestrian crossing, which we'll be utilizing general fund reserves for. Any questions on that?
And the Market Street streetscape is outside of the drainage project, the Market Street Division 3 surface collection and conveyance?
Yes.
Yeah, that's separate. Okay.
Mhm.
All righty. Councilmember Seekins, you still have your hand up, but I don't know, maybe you just didn't put it down from before. All right.
Sorry, it shows my hand down from my end, so I didn't mean to keep it up. Sorry.
No problem.
Down.
Okay, so then we have culture and recreation. We've added the 180 Lockwood renovations, which is the old DMV space at 180 Lockwood. So we'll be doing some renovations to that space to utilize for city staff. And then the Johns Island Park multi-purpose field, Lenavar Park improvements, I always say that wrong, sorry, park improvements, and then Stanley Chisholm Park improvements were all added as well. I think there's any other ones that were added. Any questions on any of the culture and recreation?
The International African American Museum, you're showing $97 million there. The building was, from what I remember, somewhat less than that. Is kind of everything accounted for there now, Amy?
Everything that we know about in the budget that we have, yes, that is the budget that we have for the museum.
And did we end up utilizing all of that, or is I don't remember the number being that high for the.
Well, you got to remember that's not just construction cost, Mayor. That includes everything else that goes with it as well. That's why it's more than probably what you're thinking. But yes, we utilized all of that funding.
Just checking. Thank
Yeah.
you.
You sure did.
All right. There's some good park improvement projects y'all listed here, many of which are funded, are mostly funded, including WPAL, the playground equipment at Brittlebank. Of course, we've closed out pretty much Carl Richardson, Fort Pemberton. We're going to proceed with lease improvements to the multipurpose field at Johns Island, Lenavar, Mary Utsi, Stanley Chisholm. So I point that out once again, particularly in mind with our referendum being on the ballot in November, when we talk with citizens about the things that we might fund with that bond. It's really kind of for the big stuff like swimming pools and new rec centers. And we're still trying in our regular budget and grants and everywhere else to fund kind of the, I wouldn't say everyday park improvements, but you know, the smaller projects, less than $1 million particularly, we're trying to still do those through this capital improvement project budget. So anyway, if that's a selling point.
Okay. Everybody good with that?
Any questions?
And then there's really nothing new for enterprise funds. It's still the same projects for the Angel Oak site parking improvements, which, you know, we're working with another organization on that. And then the market hall shed type pointing, the municipal golf course restrooms are on here. And then, you know, we had the parking garage repairs and the Shepherd Street lot.
Can I ask a quick question about one of those, please?
Sure.
So I saw, and I know it's much needed, the restrooms at the golf course. Is the reason, Amy, that we've put just 40,000 in hospitality over there based on a formula on the play we get between locals and tourists? Or, and it seems to me that would be something we should look at and see if we can put some hospitality money towards it if we can.
That is the calculation that's
Okay.
the amount that we can use based on how many tourists they provided to us.
Can we update that? Because I got to believe that the numbers are going up over there. Anyway,
Yeah, I don't remember. I thought it was more recent that we got those numbers from the golf course, but I'll double check.
okay. I mean, it just seems like a natural place to put those funds. And
Local play.
I don't want to. Thanks.
Mm-hmm.
So total project budget for all of this, y'all, is only $767 million. I'm just saying. That's over between now and 2028. So that's spread out over time, but lots going on.
There is a lot going on. So that's really all we have for the capital improvement plan. I don't know if anybody has any concerns or you let us know if you have any questions on anything. Everybody's very quiet today.
Council members, Appel, Shade, y'all have any questions, comments? I'm not sure Councilmember Shade is still with us. Councilmember Appel?
Everything looks great. Doing a lot of exciting projects. I like to see, I like what I see with the Windermere drainage project on the screen right now. That looks to be fully funded, if not close, based on where we are right now. Would that be an accurate statement, Matt?
Councilman Bell, we are still finalizing our construction numbers based on CWS conflict resolution, which is just the design of how to move around their infrastructure, but we are certainly very close to fully funded.
Wonderful. If we need a few more bucks, maybe we can keep up our streak in Columbia on that project. But let's keep working on it, and really appreciate all that you and your team have done to move that one along, as well as everyone else at the city that's been involved.
All right.
I'll follow up with council members that weren't on today just to make sure see if they have any comments, and with Councilmember Shea too, since he's driving in the car.
Gotcha. That'd be great.
Okay.
Did anybody have any other business, any other topics they want to bring up about budgeting, funding? All right, hearing
Everybody's
none.
tired today.
Thank you, Amy. Appreciate
Yep.
all the good work of pulling all this together. I know there's a lot to keep track of, and I don't know about y'all, but it looks like a good report to me to 7 months in and be $18 million to the good. Good work. Great work, everybody.
Nice.
Thanks, Amy.
Great
Thank
job.
you.
Thank you.
Thanks, everyone.